Whoop. Try that one. All right. Shh. Yesterday we talked about, or began talking about the causes of World War II. Just like there were causes of the Civil War, multiple causes, there were multiple causes of World War I, there are multiple causes of World War II. And we talked about actually three yesterday. We talked about the Treaty of Versailles. Why is that a cause of World War II? Okay, because of how harshly it punished the Germans. What was the second cause? Economic, and precisely we could say what? The Great Depression. And then thirdly was nationalism, this extreme nationalism that shows up in Italy and Germany in the form of what? Fascism. So let's figure out what fascism is. Quite all right. Just made me bend over that.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I couldn't.
Okay. So what is fascism? It's really simple. What the heck is that? And why did it happen? Huh. Don't like that, but we'll go with it. No, I don't like that at all. There we go. Nope, don't like that. There we go. All right, so fascism is just like communism, it's just like socialism, it's just like democracy, in that it is simply an idea. Yes. Okay. So did we talk about fascism yesterday? Oh no, right there. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so America is given hope by Roosevelt. And just like Roosevelt gives hope to the Americans, the Italians are given hope by Benito Mussolini. The Germans are given hope by Adolf Hitler. And all three make the same promise. I will bring you out of the Depression. I will return you to economic prosperity. There will be a chicken in every pot. Everybody will be fat and happy. Does it happen? No. Somewhat. Particularly in Italy and Germany, if you were part of the chosen people. If you weren't, then you were still hungry. So, fascism, as we were talking about just a minute ago, is simply a political philosophy. And again, it's an idea, just like communism, just like socialism, just like democracy. It's simply an idea. Now, Lydia, show me democracy. Why? Because it's an idea. Okay? Can you show me symbols of democracy? Yeah. There's some in this room, right? Flag. There's a picture of a bald eagle over here, windowsill. Okay? There's a Coca-Cola bottle back there. What better symbol of democracy than a Coca-Cola bottle? Huh? Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, right? Symbols of democracy. In the same way, show me love. You can't. You didn't show me love, you expressed love. You can't show me love, and by show, I mean enabling to put my hands on it. Why? It's an abstract idea. And so fascism is an abstract idea. Are all ideas good? No. Some of y'all have some really bad ideas sometime, right? It's like I walked out of my back door one evening and Zachary and a kid named Clint Crawley and Michael Eubanks were standing in my backyard with a potato gun. And they were about to shoot Michael with that potato gun. He had on a catcher's mask and a chest protector. I walked out and went, do y'all think that's a really good idea? And then they thought about it and went, probably not. So not all ideas are good. Fascism is a bad idea. Okay? Because in a fascist regime, in a fascist government, you have an autocratic form of government. What does autocratic mean? One person. You're going to turn 16 before long, believe it or not, if you live that long. You're going to turn 16, you're going to get in the car for the first time, and guess what? When you sit behind the wheel, you are an autocrat. Your mom and daddy aren't going to be sitting next to you going, okay, slow down, baby. Turn your turn signal on. Stop. Don't hit the car in front of you. They're not going to be doing that. You are in complete control. You want to do 137 miles an hour? You can drive 137 miles an hour. You want to hit Madoff as he's crossing the street? Hit Madoff as he's crossing the street. Why? Because you are in complete control. And that's Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. They are in complete control. Hitler doesn't have to go to Parliament and say, hey, can I do this? He just does it. And there are no repercussions. There's nobody to come along behind him and say, you know, Adolf, that was a really bad idea. Maybe you should change your mind. And so fascism is this idea that puts all of the power in the hands of one person. A true dictatorship. So Germany. If you are not a part of the in crowd, you're a part of what? The out crowd. So who is the out crowd in Germany? Anybody, not necessarily Aryan, but anybody who is not German. There's a difference. Slight, but there's a difference. Because Hitler himself is not German. He's Austrian. But Austria is a Germanic country. We look at language. Okay? So if anybody in here Catholic? Anybody in here mentally ill? Okay. If Davis were truly mentally ill, he would be on the outs. Anybody got a birth defect?
Well, it's like during labor.
Yeah. All right. Then you would be on the out. If you were Jewish, and I don't think we have anybody in here that's Jewish, do we? Really? You would definitely be on the out.
Well, David said that Hitler was Jewish.
Well, Hitler would have. Why would
That's
Hitler
not
be
my fault.
Jewish? He would kill your God.
So if you're Catholic, if you're Jewish, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, if you're a homosexual, if you're a person who has a birth defect, maybe you have one leg, or you're mentally ill, you have Down syndrome, you're not part of Hitler's perfect society. And one of two things will happen to you. You will be removed from society and placed where people can't see you, or they just line you up on the street and shoot you. If you're a college professor and you stand up in your class and go, fascism is a bad idea, Hitler's a bad fella, you're probably going to get a visit from somebody, and they're going to quietly take you away. Or maybe not so quietly take you away. If you're a musician, just because you're creative, you're liable to find yourself with the out crowd. If you're a Christian, and you stand up and say, this is wrong what you are doing to this group of people, you've now become a part of that group of people. And in fact, in Germany during World War II, there's an organization called the Underground Church. And literally the church goes into hiding so that they can work against the Nazi regime. And had Hitler been able to get his hands on them, they would have ceased to exist. So anybody that's different, what did we say fascism was? An idea. It was a bad idea, right? Well, what about this book? What is that? It's a book, right? It's made up of pages, words, right? But at its heart, what is any book that has ever been written? It's an idea. Reinhold Niebuhr's book, Moral Man and the Immoral Society, would not have been allowed in Germany. It would have been placed over here on the burn pile. Jacques Ellul, A Reason for Being, would not have been allowed. It would have been placed on the burn pile. The Constitution of the United States would have been placed on the burn pile. And the dictionary possibly, because it has the word democracy in it, we would have reached down and why? Because those books contain ideas that are opposed to what that man thought was right. Sometimes you will hear the word fascist thrown around in our society. Yes. What? He probably became mentally ill. He does end up killing himself. He kills his wife. We think. We don't really know because we never found his body. The Russians got it. So in the United States, this word fascist or fascism has become a weapon. If you don't agree with somebody, and I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret, okay? There are plenty of people in this country, in this world, in this building that I don't agree with. Does that make me a bad person? Does that make me a fascist? No. Does that make you a fascist because you don't agree with me? How many of you agree with everything I have said in here this year? Edwin lied. He just lay like a bad rug. Lied like a bad rug.
See, I agree with you.
And you shouldn't. Because that's part of being an educated person is you learn to do what? Think for yourself and disagree civilly. You know, instead of me disagreeing with Grady and saying, you're an idiot, you're a fascist. Grady, I don't agree with you. But you know what? At the end of the day, I love you, I respect you. I've got a very dear friend named Michael Shepard. He's an electrical engineer, works for Georgia Power. He was a student of mine at Auburn. He's black, I'm white, in case y'all didn't notice. Yeah. I identify as a white male. And Michael and I got into a discussion one day about health care. And at the time, my parents were nearing the end of their lives. My dad was just old. He was 92. My mother had Alzheimer's. And he supported Obamacare, and I didn't. And I expressed that to him, and he expressed to me his feelings. And you know, I finally said, look, this is my 91-year-old daddy and my 78-year-old mama we're talking about. It's personal to me. So what we're going to do is we're just going to agree to disagree and get on with it. And you know what? That's what we did. He didn't call me a fascist. I didn't call him an ugly word. We just continued our relationship knowing where one another stood. And that was fine. Try that today with most people, though. What happens? They get mad. You know? You're a fascist. That's right. It becomes a word weapon. And we use those, don't we? All the time. You know, somebody once said, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Can I let y'all in on a little secret? That fellow was an idiot. Because words hurt. They really do. It's like if you came in here every day and I said, every last one of you is stupid, every last one of you will never amount to everything. Over the course of 180 days, if I said that every day, what might you start to believe? That I'm stupid and I'll never amount to anything. At the same time, if you come in every day, and I hope I've done this in some way, and told you, you know what, you're going to do fine, you're going to do great things. 10 years from now, you're not going to be worried about Georgia history. You're going to be worried about, supporting your family, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You're going to be fine. You might actually believe that. Y'all remember what Captain Plum said about what? Packing your parachute?
Oh, yes, sir.
That's what we need to be doing for each other. I will. Hopefully, I'm packing your parachute. Hopefully, when you pull that parachute, you'll have more than 15 panels, though. We have all 18. So, you don't get that in fascism. You don't get that. You get, we're going to destroy ideas because they don't agree with his idea. We're going to destroy people because they don't fit an ideal. How many of us in here fit an ideal? Probably none of. Well, Grady's hair might, because it's just luscious. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm kind of envious of Grady's hair.
Yeah, Grady.
All right, but I mean, honestly, how many of us fit into an ideal? None of us. We all have faults. We all are imperfect people. As I said the other day, we're a mess. Every last one of us. And that's okay. Because together we make a beautiful mess. All right, that's enough preaching for today. All right, so fascism, bad idea. Terrible idea. But in Italy and in Germany, it becomes the government. And let me let you know a little secret. Fascism is not limited to Italy, Germany. Fascism shows up in Spain. Fascism shows up in Great Britain. It shows up in France. It shows up in the United States. During a period of time that we call the early 20th century. Really, in Italy, about 1840. 1845, before the American Civil War, fascism becomes an idea, and it's embraced by people, by some people. Yes?
Fascism was propagated by propaganda.
Uh-huh.
Can you show us, like, some of that? Like,
I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to get there. I thought I had German propaganda, but I don't. I have American propaganda. But yes, Hitler was a great user of propaganda. He used the state-controlled press, the newspaper, the media, to get across his ideas, much like the Bourbon Triumvirate used the Atlanta Journal, Henry Grady, to get their message across. Hitler used the media, radio. Just like Roosevelt's using radio to reach the American people, Hitler's using radio to reach the German people. And he's selling them something. And it's a bad idea. But I'll try to remember to dig some of that up and show it to you on Monday, if you'll help me remember. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4 is really 2 things. It's appeasement and isolationism. Now, what's appeasement? Appeasement is what you do when you want somebody to stop messing with you and you don't want to hit them in the mouth. So how many of y'all have been bullied? I mean, honestly bullied. Okay? You got a couple of choices when you confront a bully, right? You can give in. You actually have 3 choices. You can ignore them, right? You can give them what they want. Give me your lunch money, right? Or you can hit them in the mouth. I mean, you got 3 choices, right? Well, Great Britain and France are in such poor shape that they choose to talk to Germany. They choose to ignore them, hoping they'll go away. They choose to give them what they want, hoping they'll go away. And Germany doesn't go away. And England and France are in such bad shape because they're trying to recover from World War I. Think about this for a minute. France is covered with 400 miles of trenches and barbed wire. What happens when World War I ends? They either got to clean it up or it's still there, right? In fact, you go to France today, to the French countryside, and you find trenches from World War I. You find bomb craters from World War I. You dig around long enough, you might blow yourself up because you found ordnance from World War I. And so France is trying to clean this up. England has spent buku-doodles of money. Neither one of them can afford to get into a shooting war with Germany. That's what they're trying to avoid. And they try to avoid it by talking and then by giving Germany what they want. Yes? We'll talk about it in just a second. Okay? So here we have a Dr. Seuss cartoon. You've got all these monsters, right? And who do they represent? Nazi Germany. We got this little fella standing on an island, and what is he doing? He's giving out lollipops. And what does he say? Remember, one more lollipop, and then you'll go home. You think that worked? Nope. They came back and they wanted more. And so appeasement does not work. Germany takes what they want when it's given to them, and then they take what they want when it's not given to them. And finally, September 1st, 1939, Germany takes Poland. And England and France can't ignore that. They have to declare war on Germany, and they do. But the United States is practicing something else. They're not even talking to Germany. They are isolating themselves from the rest of the world. So they're practicing isolationism. Sounds kind of familiar. What did Woodrow Wilson do during World War I? We're going to be neutral. We don't care what happens over there. Let them kill themselves. We don't care. Right? And you would think that we would have learned something from that. Did we? Nope. Obviously not. Because we're saying the same thing. We're not going to be involved. You guys go ahead, kill each other. We're just going to sit back and watch. Dr. Seuss again. Really bad idea. Dr. Seuss again. Get your ostrich bonnet here. Relieves Hitler headache. Forget the terrible news you've read. Your mind's at ease in an ostrich head. Why an ostrich? Yeah, the myth is they stick their head in the sand when they are in danger, right? And so we'll sell you an ostrich head and you can stick your head in the sand. Because the idea being, if I can't see them, they're not there. Or they can't see me. Right? Huh? Yeah. Is that true, though? No. And so an ostrich head for everybody. Let's just pretend they're not there. And then Michael asked about America first. That's a phrase we've heard in the 21st century, believe it or not. And what is it? What's it all about? Nationalism. Right? Let's worry about America. To heck with everybody else. Let's worry about ourselves and ignore everything else. And can we afford to do that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And then the button down here, keep U.S. or keep us out of the war. Neither one of those work at all. Not even a little bit. All right. Oh, let me ask you this question. Is Dr. Seuss in favor of isolationism or opposed to it? He's opposed to it, isn't he? He's making what? That's a mockery. He is. He's trying to embarrass the people responsible for this policy. I think he did a pretty good job. All right, another cartoon, because I just like cartoons. So what's the meaning of the cartoon on the left? Who or what does each character represent? Let's look at the big one first. Who are they? Yeah, it's the Axis powers. -1. We'll talk about that in a sec. Mussolini, Hitler, Hirohito, Italy, Germany, and Japan. And what do they have in their hands? Lots of weapons, right? And then facing that big old three-headed giant, you've got a little baby, 1942. Huh? No. That was right after Pearl Harbor. Remember, Pearl Harbor is December of 1941. America declares war. America is no more ready to go to war than I am to fly right now. Army was small. Navy was okay, but they weren't ready to fight. Okay? In fact, early on, as soldiers are training for war, they're using broomsticks for guns because they don't have enough. You would again, you would think we would have learned from World War I. Carl Vinson said this. He said, the most expensive thing in the world is a cheap army and navy because it's going to cost you. And we found that out. So 1942, America's just beginning to get into the war effort. They're going against this big giant with just a slingshot. And then down, somebody said it a minute ago, David and Goliath, and David slew the giant. And then you look at the headline or the title here. What does it say? Just wait until the little fella grows up. Admiral Yamamoto, who was responsible for the attack on Pearl Harbor. We look at that and we go, well, gosh, Japan kicked our butt, right? But they screwed up. They didn't destroy every ship in Pearl Harbor. They missed out on the aircraft carriers. And the most important thing that they forgot to do was destroy the oil reserves that were at Pearl Harbor. Had that happened, the closest fuel would have been San Diego. Okay? Admiral Yamamoto is quoted after the attack on Pearl Harbor. I fear we have awakened a sleeping giant. Because he knew the production capability of America. And to jump forward, America and the Allies won World War II not because they all outfought Germany and Japan, but because they outproduced Germany and Japan. By the end of the war, there are no Japanese planes flying at all. A, they don't have enough pilots, but B, they lose an airplane, they can't replace it. The United States uses a plane, there are 10 more to take its place. And the same becomes somewhat true of Germany. So, this is kind of prophetic. Just wait till he grows up. And when he grows up, you're in trouble. Sure enough, that's what happens. I wish we could spend a year talking about this, but we can't. So, Japan, Emperor Hirohito, they are more interested in what? Colonialism, creating colonies. And so they invade China, of all places. You got to understand, China in the 1930s is not the China of the 2020s. It is a backward country. It is not modernized in any way. Yeah. It's not unified. Okay. A bunch of different, almost like clans. And so Japan is looking for raw materials, and so they invade China, they invade Vietnam, they invade Korea, and they colonize all of those places for the raw material. Italy, Mussolini attacks and conquers part of Africa, Ethiopia, and then Albania, which is kind of a Central European country. Germany, of course. Hitler ignores the Treaty of Versailles because the Treaty of Versailles places limitations on all nations as far as how big their army can be, how big their navy can be, how many ships they can have, what size those ships can be, how many airplanes they can have. And Germany just conveniently, and Japan does too, ignores the Treaty of Versailles. And then we haven't talked about the Soviet Union. Which side were they on? They were on both. Okay, they begin as part of the Axis powers. They have an agreement with Germany. And then Germany makes a big mistake and invades the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin. We talk about Hitler, right, as, possibly being the most evil man that has ever lived. Because he kills roughly 11 to 13 million people. He is directly responsible for their deaths. Stalin killed 20 million of his own citizens. I'll leave you with that thought. But I would imagine it's outside today. Just guessing. Hey, buddy.